Hey, everybody. Happy Friday and welcome to the Big Agent Meeting. Today is September the 6th, 2024, and I will be your guest host today. My name is Frank Panunto. So happy to be here today. So, Russ, I'll try to do you proud, brother. But guys, we have a great show for you today with some exceptional talent on here and great information as always. So you're going to meet the rest of my growth team today, which we'll get on in just a second. And then, of course, the awesome Bryon Ellington will be on here with some good information for you. And then he's going to have a nice conversation with Phil Sexton, which I think you're going to find super, super interesting and very valuable. So we'll get to that in a second. But before we start, just a couple of things. Guys, I don't know if you're feeling the momentum and the energy that's going on out there right now, but we would be remiss if we didn't recognize Leo Pareja for what he's doing for us. I mean, just this week, he was recognized and honored with the Vanguard Award, which is honoring him for his excellence in leadership. And, this is not something that he just give out to everybody. It's always select few that get this award. And I can tell you, as part of his growth team, he's out in front leading the charge. He has represented his company at such a high level. And the boost in the arm and the shot in the arm that he's given us and leading the way out there in the industry. Leo, I don't know if you're listening, but man, thank you so much for everything you're doing. And every conversation I have with our agents internally, they're just so grateful for the work that's being done out there and the message that's being told. So, we always talk about telling our story. We've got the best storyteller in the industry, guys. So, Leo, thank you so much for what you're doing. The direction this company's going in is going to be through the roof, you guys. I don't know that we've ever been in a better position than where we are right now. I think with all the changes going on in the industry, we're certainly the leaders out there with the work that Leo and Holly were doing, getting in front of the NAR settlement and that kind of stuff. We are recognized as a leader. And I'm so happy and so proud to be here. And thank you for all you're doing and your leadership, Leo. Also, guys, 50 days. You know what's 50 days from now? Anybody? 50 days? EXPCon. So there are tickets still available. Listen, this EXPCon is going to be the greatest one ever. I'm just telling you guys. We're going to have over 100 different breakouts this time. Think about that. Over 100 different breakouts. And remember, this isn't corporate up there talking about stuff. This is our agents, our top producing agents up there giving you their playbook. This is a life-changing, business-changing experience. So if you're going to make an investment, why not invest in yourself? So we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up in just a bit. But EXPCon Miami, East Coast style, coming up in just 50 days from today. So every time I hear the fall weather and when the temperature starts to change, I start thinking about EXPCon because I know how great it's going to be. And it's so good to get together with everybody and share that experience. So I hope to see you all in Miami. All right. So I'd like to bring up our first set of guests today. Guys, I got to tell you, I am so excited. As you know, we've done some restructuring in the growth department, and we are really being very intentional on how we're going to start approaching things. It's just a couple of minutes ago, I talked about telling our own story. Well, one of the things and one of the steps that we're going to take to telling our story is to have more people out there leading the charge, and a lot more face-to-face conversations, and a lot more interaction with you, the agents, and a lot more support. So we're adding to our team. Now, last week, I know you met a couple of our new regional directors, including my own Lisa Kane, who's part of my team. I'm excited to introduce you to the other three parts of my team for the U.S. East. So please help me welcome Kelley Tanzola, Jill Courville, and Samantha Newman. Come on in, guys. Come on into the studio.
Hello.
Hey, Frank.
There they are. Listen, I've told you guys privately, but I want to make sure I say it in front of everybody. I am so thrilled and so grateful to have you all as part of my team going forward. And I know that the Beast of the East, the Fab Four, you three, plus Lisa, are going to absolutely dominate. So excited for everybody to get to meet you. So why don't we take a couple of minutes when everybody go around, just kind of tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us something very interesting about yourself that's not real estate related. Let's have some fun. So let's go Brady Bunch style. Going to start with Kelley. Kelley, welcome.
Hey, Frank. I'm so happy to be here. And I just want to say I'm so happy to become a part of this growth team. I'm just really excited about it. This is what I love doing, meeting agents and helping them grow and bringing on board agents. So I love it. So
Kelley and I have known each other since 2010, somewhere around there. We've been together for a long time. We've been seeing each other. I can tell you guys that she is just a super talent. You've coached people across the country. You've built offices. And I think your knowledge and your experience and what you're going to do is going to be awesome. So, again, you're going to be covering New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania. So that's pretty cool.
I'm very excited about it. I love being in front of the agents, and I definitely want to make sure that my face is out there, that all of the agents in my region know my face. They're welcome to call me, I want to help them grow too. And helping agents get to the next level is just my favorite thing to do, because I feel it in my heart too. I just really get involved and emotionally excited when I see them happy.
Yeah,
So
and I think you're coming off of the broker team, so having that
yeah.
experience and that insight of bridging the gap between operations and growth and what we're doing, I think it's
Mhm.
going to bring a lot of value to your skill set.
Thank you. Yes. So something that no one knows about me, I was thinking about this, and I always like to keep busy. I'm a very creative person. I used to have an interior design business. I worked in new home construction. That's how I got into real estate, and then my love for coaching agents got, helping agents get next level, got into my coaching and such. But I'd like to stay busy. I always have to have 10 plates in the air and stay busy. So I come from a long line of cooks, and my forte is baking. It just relaxes me. I love baking. I don't necessarily like eating it as much as I love making it and being creative with it. So I went to culinary school, and my chefs, we had great chefs. We have chefs from the Four Seasons, and chefs from New York, chefs from Atlantic City. They were our teachers, and we learned how to just like major production. And so I became a pastry chef. I have my pastry chef degree, and just for the fun of it, really. And I ended up, for a long time, I was making wedding cakes for my friends. And I'm happy to say everyone who I made a wedding cake is still married.
Well, now the secret's out, number one, and baked goods are my nemesis. You don't get a body like this.
Oh, okay.
For baked goods. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Samantha Newman.
Hello.
Sam, welcome to the team. So excited to have you, and tell everybody a little bit about your background and the states that you're covering.
Yeah, thank you. I'm pumped to be here. I'm pumped to be part of the team. I'm super excited. So I'm actually over Region 8, which are super southern states. So Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. And kind of a little bit about my background. I've been in the business for 10 years and have kind of like done it all. I started as an individual agent. A lot of people don't know this, but when I got started, I was a baby out of college, and I was like a broke little post-college baby. I had $0 to my name. Okay. And I was like, my degree is in nutrition and kinesiology, and I worked in that field for all of 3 seconds before deciding that I didn't want to be there anymore. And so totally just woke up and was like, I'm going to sell real estate. I'm going to be a real estate agent, and jumped all in. I think I had $1,800 in my checking account, and I didn't have a backup plan, and I didn't have a part-time job. And I was like, well, it's either this works or I'm going to move into a cardboard box, like one or the other. We have no choices here. So worked as an individual agent for my first 5 years, and all the agents know those first, few years are just a grind, a constant grind. So I have a super, super soft spot for agents and growth, because just how real estate has changed my life. I mean, it literally took me from $0 and 1-ply toilet paper to, the like 3-ply, and now I can afford nicer things for myself. Yeah, so it's genuinely, real estate has genuinely changed my life. And I think real estate is such a cool vehicle because you can do so much within it. Like to Kelley's point, you can work in interior design, you can do new construction, you can renovate and flip houses, you can sell, you can like all of these options. So soft spot for the agents, soft spot for growth, because again, I've got to witness how real estate has changed my life, and just taking me from a gutter baby to, a roof over my head, and like being able to travel and do the things that I want to do. So then after 5 years, I joined a big team at my last brokerage and was a sales leader there, became a coach within that company, and then also kind of migrated into the managing broker role as well, and managed one of our satellite offices. And, then surprisingly, I was brought over to EXP by an employee, not an agent. And he had like all these fabulous things to say about how they love their agents and treat their agents. And I'm like, this is like too good to be true. I just don't, you're lost in the sauce. You know what I mean? You need to like get clarity. But once you look at the model and once you peel back that curtain, you can't like unsee it. Right. So, moved my license actually not very long ago over here and, got to step into this opportunity, which is just huge. And so I'm excited to, hit the ground running and, be in my region and kind of just like get face to face with everyone. Like Kelley said, like, I just want to meet everybody. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Real quick, tell us something very interesting about yourself. So I have to get to Jill.
Yeah. Okay. So probably this is like, you could probably assume this, but since I'm from Arkansas, but actually my family, I grew up on a 1,700 acre cattle ranch. And so your girl has fixed fence and baled hay and worked cows and driven tractors and all the things. So I think that comes as a surprise to people when they look at me. They don't really think like, she's rocking the cowboy boots, but that's how I grew up. And that's the lifestyle I lived for a long time and loved it. So
I think you drive a pickup truck, right?
I do drive a big jacked up Ford. Yes, I do.
There you go. And from now on, you'll be known as 3-Ply Sam. Okay. So Jill, welcome.
Hello.
How are you doing, Jill? The best.
I am doing so great. So great.
So please,
I am so
give everybody
excited
your
to be
background
here.
and what you're covering.
So I am covering the New England region. Woohoo! 6 states. I am Boston born and raised, so I'm a local. I'm never leaving New England. Never leaving. I love it here. I love the agents here. We're a little bit different up in New England. We don't like change as much as everybody else, and that's okay because that's our opportunity. And let's see, something that maybe is a little bit interesting about myself is, I guess, if my living situation were a Facebook status, it would read, it's complicated, because I also live in New Hampshire, live free or die, New Hampshire. And so I spend my winters in New Hampshire and the rest of the year in Massachusetts, which is probably a little bit opposite from what people would think. They'd be like, why are you going to New Hampshire for the winter? But I live in a small resort town there where I ski very avidly, and I'm on my 3rd ski racer. And we also travel all over the world chasing snow, even in the summer.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so that's really, really fun.
And most important question, who's got the best chowder?
Chowder. Oh, somebody asked me that the other day, and you really have to go to this place that it's literally, I don't know the new name of it, but it used to be called the No Name in Boston. But most people, if they come to Boston, they want to go to like Legal Seafoods or something. That's fine. It's good. It's touristy and it's still good. So if you come, you're fine. Don't go to Cheers though. Total tourist trap.
Got that. So
Yeah.
I worked on The Perfect Storm. I have a background in acting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And where we were in Gloucester, Massachusetts.
Yep.
And there was a place called the Blackburn. I don't know if it's still there or not. I had the
Yep,
best chowder.
it's still there. Yeah.
Best chowder I ever had in my life. It was phenomenal. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah. You got to have the white chowder. That's New England chowder.
That's what it was. Phenomenal.
Yes. Yeah.
So you guys, real quick, we got about a minute to go. I know you're working on something really important that I think is going to be huge for us. Just a quick overview on what that looks like. You got 1 minute.
I'll go. So we are working on, the real great thing that we have is that we can work virtually, and we're also able to work boots on the ground, right? Which was sort of that missing piece here at EXP. And so we're really excited to do that. And something that we're working on is really networking and collaborating, especially with some women. You might notice that we're all women on this group here, especially with some women inside and outside of EXP. And we're really excited to roll that out. We can't reveal too many details because it's still in like super secret mode, and we'll have it out soon.
That's going to be an awesome thing that you guys are doing. I know what it's going to look like, and it's going to be phenomenal. Guys, thank you so much. I couldn't be more excited. We have a powerhouse team. You guys are superstars, and I'm thrilled that you're part of this. So thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
I mean, what an eclectic group and so talented. These women are so talented, and I think they'd be great for us. And please utilize the growth team. That's what we're here to do. Now, my man, where's Bryon? So, guys, University Spotlight. But again, as I praised Leo in the beginning, I'd like to say something to Bryon now, because I don't get to see you that often. But Bryon, I'm telling you, man. And I'm not just saying it because it's just, we're the only two talking, right? But I will tell you that the impact that you're having on this company is massive, and it is recognized, and people are talking about it. And I'm telling you, man, what you're doing is moving the needle in a massive way. So I thank you so much. You're making my job easier to talk about it. But what you're doing, brother, is phenomenal. And just thank you so much for the hard work for you and your team, what you're putting into this company. Really appreciate it.
I really appreciate you saying that. And that last part was the most true part of that statement. It is the university team has been just cranking.
Phenomenal.
Listen, this is a time of skill in our market. We saw this back in the ship. What happened back in 2007, so we had about 1.2 million realtors in this industry. And all of a sudden, over a couple of years, we dropped down to 900,000. And people got the point a little late that, this is a skill-based market, right?
Absolutely.
I sincerely hope, at least for EXP, that everybody gets that message really quickly. It's interesting. Tony Robbins, and I'm not a person who goes around quoting Tony Robbins, but he said something really profound once. He said, you know what your problem is? Your problem is you think you shouldn't have problems. And what's interesting about that is you can have two kinds of pain in your life. You can have the pain of discipline, or you can have the pain of regret. Now, I hope you choose the pain of discipline, because at least that has the reward of hard work at the end. Friends, regret has no reward at the end of it. It never ends. And so that begs the question, right? So discipline at what? And my answer to that is get into training, not education, by the way, not education, training. And the difference is one gets you into action. One is just something you absorb while eating popcorn, right? So I would prefer you get into training. And so can we talk about that for a few minutes?
Yeah, let's get into that. But I want to say one thing before you do that. I talk to a lot of people. You hit on something that hits me hard. I think the hardest emotion to live with is regret. I think it's one of the hardest emotions, because you can't go back. And when you have the opportunity to not have to face regret in the moment, take that opportunity to not have regret, because it is a painful cut. It's a deep cut. It's a tough one. So I'm glad you said that. That's awesome.
Yeah, think about the kind of shower conversation you want to have with yourself. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Yeah. So EXPCon. If you have not gotten your ticket, now I know many of us have been to EXPCon before. I'm going to tell you it's very different this year. All the way from the general sessions to, we have 100+ breakouts for you. We have 10 different tracks. I don't care what level you're at, new, icon, team leader. I don't care what your specialty is, luxury, commercial, what have you. We have a track for you there. And I mean, like throughout the event, you will have dedicated classes just for you. Now you can go to any of them, but we will call those out for you so you know where to go. And then we'll even have masterminds at the very end, free masterminds on investing, on team leaders, solo agents. Great stuff there. Also, too, coming up this week, KGCI. By the way, we are live on KGCI. I don't mean to make you nervous, Frank, but we are live not only on YouTube, but on KGCI. If you're not familiar, this is our radio partnership program that we have. We have over 50 programs. There you go. With some of our best and brightest. You see Juan Carlos, Holly, and the gang there. Episodes every day from morning till night. And then we even have it wherever you listen to podcasts, so that you can go and pick and choose which ones you listen to, or you can listen to it streaming. Next week, Frank, have you been playing around with AI yet?
I do. I need it because I'm a grammatical disaster. So yes.
That's a good use of it. I've started using it every day because of my friend, Carrie Sauvé. So Carrie Sauvé agreed to do a coaching program for us through Elevate, right? So her next cohort starts September 11th. Now she's going to take you on a 6-week journey where she teaches you marketing tools, video tools, how to use AI in every aspect of your business to make you sound smarter, to make you look better, to make you do the things that you've always meant to do, like video, but were afraid because of the way you looked and blah, blah, blah. She's got amazing tools that she'll coach you through step by step. Now, we give a money back guarantee with this program. We know that you're going to love it. So if you go to September 11th and hate it, we'll give you money back. But go beyond that, we're actually going to have Carrie do a very free session on Monday, the 9th, this coming Monday. Yeah, there you go, on our YouTube channel. So be sure you tune in for that. Absolutely free. Give you a sense of some of the cool things that you can do with AI. And she's got some really cool stuff lined up for that one. Next week, this time, I just had the coolest prep call. So when we do these kinds of conversations, like the one I did with Phil here, we do prep calls. Yesterday, I met with Jill Liebernight. Jill is one of our top agents here in Austin, Texas. And she and I were talking about how you consult sellers post NAR. And so next Friday, Jill's going to come on and she's going to walk you through, show up, bring a very thick stack of paper and a pen, because she's got great scripts and dialogues and processes for you on that. And then speaking of that, if you didn't watch Holly Mabry's YouTube yesterday on empowering sellers post NAR, it's up on our YouTube channel. It's our masterclass series every Thursday at 3 p.m. live. We bring you a great executive. So next week, we're going to bring you Glenn Sanford, the man, the myth, the legend, who's going to do mind mapping your business for success. He's going to talk to you about strategically visualizing and organizing your business ideas and streamlining your operations, setting clear goals that you can get after. Really, really great session. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Right. And the last thing I'll say is I know you need to go to a video, but I think one of the best attributes of the company, and it clearly is at the forefront of your mind for University, it's very clear to me. And I tell this to everybody. I think one of the best things of this company is that everybody has a peer group. It doesn't matter if you're brand new or where you are in the path, you have a peer group at EXP. And that comes through in what you're doing at University. And I promote that all times. I think it's exceptionally important that people understand that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, sales can be a lonely game if you don't build your tribe. And if you're not building your tribe, plug in. We'll help. Honestly, just reach out. And if you're not sure where to start, reach out to us. We can help. All right. So, thank you, man. All right. So we had a great conversation with Phil Sexton. Now, Phil's the top team leader in Arizona, but he also happens to be on the committee for contracts in Arizona as well. And because of that, he has some really great insights. So we had to talk about some of these NAR changes. We had to talk about your buyer value proposition, how you do your buyer consultations, and also just staying fluid as the dust settles on all that's going on right now post August 17th. So this is a really cool conversation. I was really glad that he was able to make the time to do this conversation with us. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Bryon Ellington, Chief Learning Officer for eXp Realty, and I'm joined today by Phil Sexton with the Sibbach Team in Scottsdale, Arizona. Phil, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Bryon. I'm here with you today. This is great. Appreciate the invite.
Well, we're always glad to have you. And this is an interesting time in our industry, right? So you in your area have been in it for a little bit now. Most of the country is just getting into it. And by that, I mean dealing with the repercussions of the settlement from NAR with the DOJ that happened back in March, now having taken effect. Now, you've been in it for a few weeks, though. And so love to hear kind of your experiences. And, I'll just start by asking you the question, how does being in it change what your thoughts were at going into all of this? What did you think was going to happen? What actually has happened in your area?
Good question. So just for the viewers out there, my name is Phil Sexton. I run the Sibbach team. We've got about 40 agents on the team. And Jeff and I have been running this team together for 12 years and have been in the top 5 as far as number of most productive teams on the Phoenix Business Journal for the last 5 or 7 years. So we do a bunch of production. And of course, when we heard about this new news from NAR, you're worried, right? You got unknown. And I think that the level of unknown causes worry on everybody's shoulders that's running a team or feeding their families with commissions from this industry that we fear we're changing. And so our marketplace, our MLS, the Arizona Regional MLS, they changed their rollout was August 1st. And so now here we sit a few weeks into the rollout. And, now once we got to the other side of that date line, if you will, it really wasn't as bad as we had kind of made it out to be. And now I know we're going to chit chat about it a little bit today, but, when I'm talking to teams that have not had the rollout yet in different parts of the country, and I hear their questions and their worry and where they're at, I just have an internal smile. And I just want to say, it's okay. Once you get across the line and everybody's in the same boat, it's okay. It'll be fine. And so I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that today, Bryon.
Yeah, and I make the bad joke that neither one of us are going to look good in orange jumpsuits. So we're going to stay clean and clear in what we talk about and what we don't talk about. But I think one of the biggest burning questions that a lot of agents are going to have is, what does this do to the buy side compensation? Does it lower what we should expect in terms of buy side compensation as agents? And without getting into any amounts in particular in your area, have you seen commissions going lower than what they were historically anyways?
I think that if you look at the overall agents, there's a lot of people that had never been used to presenting their value in a conversation about compensation. And those agents, they're worried. They should be worried because they're going to embark on a new world of having to present what they bring to the table in order to get paid. But for the agents that this is their full-time profession, they've been studying the new forms, they know all of Arizona's forms, they know all of EXP forms. And so they've got this massive tool belt now that they're able to pull from. I think that there's a potential that buy-side commission goes up, because now those buyer's agents aren't just relying on what the listing agent had negotiated many months ago with their client. They're actually in control of what their value is, and they get to charge accordingly.
Yeah. And whatever you put in those forms, that is the threshold by which you will not get paid more than, right?
Correct. Which was a change.
That is a very big change, especially on the buy side of things. And you can put in whatever amount you feel you're worth, and also you feel buyer will pay you. You feel like you can negotiate for. And then from there, it really is a negotiation, right? First with your own client to make sure that they're willing to cover your compensation, whatever the case might be. And then negotiations with the sellers and their listing agents to see how much of your compensation they're willing to offer in concession and things of that nature. When we talk about the buy side of the business, I think a lot first stems from kind of how your lead comes in. And here I'm talking about the comfort level, setting a consultation where you can really dive in and explain your value proposition as it relates to the compensation that you're asking for. How are you guys generating your leads on your team?
Yeah, so when you talk about consultations, there's three basic scenarios that we have. Ideally, we get a lot of leads from Zillow. So there's a lot of, first meeting is going to be at a property. We promote and sit lots of open houses as well. So a lot of times those first conversations are going to be at an open house. And then we also do a lot of internet advertising where we have people that are moving here from out of town. And so those first consultations, ideally we do in the office so that they can come in and sit down. Does that answer that answers your question?
Somebody who's willing to come in from out of town and spend time with you over a weekend, that's an easy kind of dialogue to get them to want to sit down first and have a strategic approach to that tour and then therefore do your consultation.
Yes.
And you mentioned open houses. Funny, Kendall and I were just talking. She rightly thinks, I think she rightly thinks that open houses are going to become a much bigger thing because it's an open look period for buyers. If you think about the fact that they don't necessarily have to sign a buyer representation agreement to come into an open house. I think as word gets around buyers and they learn this, that's going to become something interesting for those of us who love open houses. You talked about your Zillow leads. How's that going, setting those consultations with those folks? How are you doing that?
So we're still just meeting them at the property first. But now we're introducing the fact that the world has changed. And I think one of the biggest objections that we're getting is really the buyer is unaware that things have changed. They didn't expect that they would have to, like, I don't want anybody to be surprised when we show up that there's an agreement that we need to sign before I can unlock the door. I don't want to be that much of like a, I don't know, slimy salesperson where you're going to unlock the lockbox and you're like, oh, real quick. Yeah, by the way, here, you can use my back if you need to sign this contract. Like, we don't want to be that.
No.
And so we're starting to set them up ahead of time. And actually, Jeff and I we've got a videographer that is going to come in to help us create a couple of videos of us explaining the process that we're going to be able to pre-send to our clients. But right now, because it's so new, I'm leaning on our local news story. And the local news did a story that it's changing. And they had the deputy commissioner of real estate that came in and interviewed. And I will say that news story doesn't have 100% factual information in it, but it does get the point across that it has changed and that buyers are going to have to sign an agreement to see a house. And I like the local news instead of the NAR handout that they did, because that seems a little too self-serving that NAR is publishing something that says, oh yeah, now you have to sign a document. Same with EXP. If I give them something that EXP says that, then in their mind, I think, well, maybe I should try to go at a different brokerage if that's what this brokerage is doing. Whereas the news had this blanket statement that said, in order for you to see a house, you're going to have to sign an agreement with a realtor. And so I like to use that to help educate them. Hey, quick text message. Hey, not sure if you've heard the news. Here was a local story that ran that the world has changed, but we're going to have to execute an agreement before we go in the house. Here's an agreement. Currently I have 5 buyer broker agreements that I use. I actually created a graphic. I should post it in Workplace of a golf bag. And that golf bag had a bunch of clubs in it. And I put EXP's buyer broker agreement, EXP single property buyer broker agreement, Arizona Realtors buyer broker exclusive agreement, Arizona Realtors showing property agreement, Zillow's touring agreement. And so now as a buyer's agent, I got to know what tools are available to me. And I got to be able to use these clubs depending on the different situations.
That's right.
With these properties where they're coming in and they want to see 123 Main Street, we have been using the EXP single property agreement. I like that one better than the Zillow touring agreement because it's got compensation on it, which I think is actually in the spirit of this settlement, is that we have to have those compensation conversations ahead of time. And so even though right now we have the option to use the Zillow touring agreement, I'm not sure that, I don't know. It seems like there's some questions around how long that one will last or if that one will get modified or whatnot. And we're not getting a lot of pushback on the EXP single property one. So it's got our compensation on it. And I don't know if I assume that everybody watching this has studied this form, but it's an exclusive relationship between you and that buyer for that house. And I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, to your point, if you have not seen that form and then the other bigger agreement form from EXP, do go download those. They're available for you. Do make sure that you understand those agreements and the flexibility that's built in, what you can do with those agreements. Holly and Lauren came on the Big Agent meeting a couple of weeks ago. You can find that up on our YouTube channel. They walk you through the new listing addendum. Then a couple of weeks before that, they came on and talked you through those forms so that you knew exactly what to say about them and why they were written the way that they were written.
Yeah. Another point to the single property one that I like, I don't know that I should say this, sorry, but this one's for everybody else. This might get cut out, is that unlike your big buyer broker agreement, your single property buyer broker agreement does not have a cancellation clause on the bottom that lets either party decide that they want out. So it is a binding, it would request both of us to agree in order to break it. And I like that about it. Because if I'm going to take the time to go out and to meet these clients at these properties and we're going to have to sign an agreement, it's nice to have one where you know that you've already addressed compensation and you've got a binding agreement that they can't just cancel and then go call the listing agent 3 minutes after you walk out of the property.
That's awesome. And when you talk about putting these forms in front of the buyer, how are you positioning these forms? How are you positioning the compensation? I love the idea of putting a news story in front of them that says, this is just the way the world works now, and that good third party credibility. But how are you explaining the form and your compensation to them?
And so then we follow it with, and here's what the form looks like. In Arizona, we also have to remember that the agency relationship needs to be established as well. And so the form here is called the READY form. It's the real estate agent acronyms. Sorry, we call it the READY form. And where are we working for the seller or the buyer or potentially both, right? And that's where we get to have the conversation about our favorite acronym in real estate. Brian, you following me? What's our favorite fiduciary acronym?
Oh,
Old
are you
car.
Old car, the NAR thing. Okay, I was like,
yes. No, but
we have too many acronyms in real estate, Phil.
You and me, no kidding. But so I want to prepare them, the buyers, ahead of time that we're going to adjust. We're going to discuss agency, and here's the READY form, which is what we call it in Arizona, so that they can have time to review that before we're standing in front of a driveway and it's 113 degrees outside in Phoenix. And here is the EXP single property agreement that's going to have the property address on it and, my compensation on it and everything's on it. I'm going to give it to them ahead of time. These are the documents that we're going to talk about when we see each other. If you have any questions ahead of time, please, or if you'd like to jump on a Zoom, happy to walk through this. And, buyers, the objection that we get, or I'm not even objection, the question that we get right now the most, because it's still somewhat fresh, is, if I don't buy the house, do I owe you anything?
Which is a great question.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you don't. Okay, great. And there's not as much, the fear of the unknown from before this happened that was so big is kind of squishing down to say, people still want to shop for houses. People know that to get representation, they've got to pay for that, right? If they want representation. And one of our lines that, actually, when we were educating our team on how to do this, you know what I did? I went to your guys' buyer training that you did, where you've got all the different interviews of agents broken out, and you've got clips from Ramon and clips from Tina Call, and you've got I started there because look, if we're getting ourselves ready, like, let's go, game on. Where are all the resources that I can go to gather stuff? And I got this line from another podcast that I was listening to, where the buyer's agent said, you don't have to hire an attorney to represent you in court. You don't have to hire an accountant to do your taxes. You don't have to hire a realtor to buy a house. If you choose to, though, blah, 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 blah. And I loved that setup. And so we've been training to that setup as well. Like, let's take the pressure off. If you choose, this is how we help. And we can go through old car, and then we can get into what are the, Sibbach Team 11 items that we go through on why they should work with us. And I encourage everybody to have a list of the items of why they should work with you and have it become a part of your buyer presentation.
Well, yeah, and the training that you're talking about is called Winning Buyers now. It's actually about to be changed to Winning Clients, because there are some seller side issues that we need to make sure our agents are aware of coming out of the NAR settlement. And so we're incorporating that. We're going to re-release it under Winning Clients, but you can find it today under Winning Buyers. But I'm curious, so you said 11 elements. Can I ask you, what are some of the standouts from those 11 pieces of your value proposition that you position yourself with your buyer clients?
It's how much of them do I want to share? I mean, some simple ones, right? Like the love it or list it guarantee, where if you don't like the property that you buy from us in the next year, you want to sell it, we're not going to charge you a listing side commission to do that, right? Like things like that, where I'd have to pull it up because I don't have all 11 memorized, but it's items like that where we talk about the previews that we're going to do. We talk about being able to find exclusive properties. I mean, for us on the Sibbach, for all agents at EXP, if we're not dangling the EXP exclusives as a part of what we can bring to the table that not every agent has access to, then I think you're missing the boat. That's certainly a piece that creates hope from both the buyer's agent and the client that we're going to be able to find properties that aren't on Zillow yet or aren't on the web yet. And in
Yeah.
Phoenix, we've got a coming soon section in our MLS where there's properties inside of the MLS that have not yet been syndicated to all the public websites. So we can now see those properties. And then on the Sibbach team, we also, whenever any one of our agents is getting ready to list a house, they let our listings manager know that they got a call from a seller. That gets added to a list. And so now we have 3 places that we get to go in addition to the public world that all the other buyers can see to help find properties. And if that doesn't work, then we have, Inman News has nominated us as one of the most innovative teams in America 3 years in a row, because we have these buyer marketing campaigns where we can go out to try to capture sellers before they're talking to realtors. And so, it's more of target marketing. And so, dude, all guns are blazing right now to discuss everything that we bring to the table on the buy side, because it's just like a listing appointment, but on the buy side.
You've got to be able to distinguish yourself and the fee that you charge, whatever that might be for you.
Yes. And so sorry to cut you off. I'm just going to keep answering your question. Let's take that Zillow lead example where ahead of time we send them the information. When we get there, did you have a chance to review it? Would you like to go through the different questions on it? No, I'm good. I understand. If I don't buy this house, I don't owe you anything. That's true. Here you go. Sign here. Now we're ready to go in, right? Of course, we're going to turn that into EXP to get our broker to sign off on it. And I heard SkySlope is changing, or just changed, to have a spot for us to upload those buyer broker agreements to SkySlope as well, which is fantastic. But then when we get in the house and the buyer starts to tour the property, that's when I go to the kitchen counter and I pull out my charts about what's going on in the marketplace. And guess what's behind my charts is that presentation that I was talking about. And so, you kind of bring them over to say, hey, let me explain to you what we're seeing out there in the market. And you go through what you're seeing from a market, from, prices, supply, demand perspective. And you say, and as you know, the world has changed. And then you get into your buyer presentation. And you go through that to try to get a better agreement than just the single property agreement.
And I was going to ask you about that earlier, because you said with some of your online leads, you do go into that single property. And I think that probably removes a lot of fear and trepidation right off the bat. But are you then trying to parlay that into a more exclusive thing as you go, it sounds like?
Yes. Right. So once that agreement really is for us to be able to get into a house, without breaking MLS rules. I want to be able to get into a house with a buyer without being a rule breaker for this new NAR settlement. And so I've got to have something signed by them. But that's really a light version of the agreement that we need to go all in and, spend our time, energy, effort, really finding properties for people at the next level than if I just had a single property agreement. Right. Yeah. So absolutely. Now that I'm in the house, it's so funny to me that the world has gone here, because it would be totally weird if before I walked into a listing, I had to have them sign a contract about compensation so that I could get in to talk to them about signing a contract about compensation.
Yeah. That would be
right. Like, it's a little bit weird, but that's okay. So we use the light version so that we can get into the property. And then once we're in the property, we've built some rapport. They can see that we actually are experts in the area. We're experts on the market, and build more comfort so that we can get a more exclusive agreement signed with them.
Well, to your point, I know a lot of agents who've done a 2-step listing appointment. I actually know one agent who did a 4-step listing appointment, right? Where the whole entire goal is to go see the property, to convince them that you're not going to try to just price it willy-nilly, that you're actually going to price it. Plus also too, you're building that rapport. And it makes it so much easier then once you've built that rapport to have them sign the agreement. Same thing on the buy side. It's just you're using a smaller agreement to buy you that sort of time as they're looking at that property, to build that rapport, to build that relationship, to build that trust and credibility as an expert, to then show them the value of why they would want to sign a more long-term commitment to you.
Yeah. And, in the beginning, we started with we're crafty, right? How exactly are we going to do this? And so, one of the things that I've had to do in these last however many days it's been since August 1st is get comfortable relearning what I've just learned.
How do you mean by that?
this is very fluid still.
Mhm.
Things are changing. Interpretations are evolving. And so on one week, I can go to the team meeting and say XYZ. And then during the week, situations come up where, well, Z's fallen off. It's not Z anymore. Now it's just XY. And so the next week I say, okay, now it's XY because Z no longer works. And here's why. And so I now have to be happy that I get to relearn. Just when you think you have it figured out, there's going to be little tweaks that happen. And so a more specific example of that is for us, we were originally thinking that if on our buyer broker agreements, that when we're representing a client, and if we're able to, if the buyer would like us to negotiate that into the deal, then I charge X. If for whatever reason I'm not able to negotiate that into the deal, then I'll charge Y, which was typically lower than X, right? And so we were talking about doing that. And then by the time it goes up the channel and an attorney weighs in and comes back and says, just so you know, whatever your low number is on that form, that's your number.
That's right.
And I said, wait, but it's not open-ended, which is the settlement language, right? Like it doesn't have an unlimited amount that it could raise. It's either this or this. And they said, yeah, it's really this. Because let me ask you this, your fiduciary is to your buyer, right? Yeah. And so did you explain to your buyer that if you were able to negotiate that into the deal so that they financed that, because we're talking about buyers that had to get financing, that they financed that extra difference was now going to have interest accumulated on it over the life of the loan. And so really that payment to you was this, and they were okay with that? Or did you forget to explain to them that that's how this worked?
I think a lot of agents would accidentally forget, and then we'd be right back in problem waters with DOJ and lawsuits and all of that.
Exactly. Yeah. So now we go in and what's our number? That's our number. And if in the event, when we get down to the meat and potatoes of negotiations and you're that far apart and you want to make an adjustment, that's up to you to determine at that point, not for you to pre-sell that with the buyer to get them to sign an agreement, if that makes sense. Don't be soft on that number. That's one thing. When I first came into it, I was softer on that number and saying like, I'll come down if I need to in order to help put a deal together. Get away from that language, because whatever you say up front, that's what's going to stick, especially if you're back in court, which of course we never want to be.
Yeah. The only people who win in a court case are the lawyers, nobody else. I want to ask you, because you've been in this market now for a little bit, have you had instances where you were representing the buyer where the seller just wasn't offering compensation or wasn't offering what you had asked for as compensation in your buyer representation agreement? Have you seen that happen yet?
Yeah. And so at two levels, the first level is the listing agent is communicating that the seller is unwilling to contribute towards compensation. And that's fine. We still write the offer for what my buyer would like, because it doesn't matter what they say. It matters what we all agree to in an offer. And how many times have you had a seller that says they're not going to do it for X and then they end up doing it for X once an offer comes over? So you never know. As a buyer's agent, we're going to ask for what my client wants, right? It's just an offer. And I would not be deterred if a listing agent said my client is not offering any compensation, or I can't find that they are offering compensation. Our buyer agents don't care. Let's show them the house if the house fits in the buyer's criteria, and let's make the offer as the buyer would like that offer to be made. Assuming that the buyer would like the buyer agent's compensation, my compensation, to be financed inside of the deal, then we're going to ask for that seller credit. And so the first objection is potentially from the listing agent that says that my seller's not going to be doing that. Great, you just blow right by that objection. And now the second objection is when you get a counter back, and it turns into them countering whatever that amount was. What I have not had yet, knock on wood, is that counter come back with all of that goes away. They've always been able to participate at some level. And so then once you get that, you go back to your client and you talk to them about their options. And do you want us to continue to push harder to get this inside of the deal? Do you want to take care of this outside of the deal? Do you want to go find another house? And that's just the reality of the conversations that we're having. And so on the few that we've had so far where it's gotten countered, half the times we say, great, the countered number was fine. The buyer's agent agreed that that was okay between them and the buyer. They agreed to modify that buyer agent agreement down to match that number, and they moved forward. And then half the time we had the buyer's agent that countered back and kept, the buyer wanted their commission to be included in the deal. And, there's a little bit of an unknown still in where that dust is going to settle. Because when a buyer's agent comes at me for my commission, I'm certainly kind of curious what their commission is. And I don't know that they can ask what they can't ask for my buyer broker agreement, just like I can't ask for their listing agreement. But if their seller is trying to pull my compensation out of the deal and my client wants it in, then I might question the other side and say, okay, where's yours at? Just curious. Is yours getting... Just curious. I think I could ask. I don't know that.
Good luck with that. Yeah, but your point's really well taken. Is that, listen, this is all negotiations. It is, and by the way, it's always been negotiable. You, as a buyer's representative, could have always asked for whatever it is that you wanted in your buyer representation agreement. Most of us just didn't bother because it was printed. And this is an American fixation on fixed pricing. We go to Best Buy, see that a refrigerator costs this much money. Well, that's just what it costs. We go into an MLS, we show a home where the seller is offering this much compensation. Well, that's just what I'm getting paid up until now. Now we start to realize, oh, no, wait, I get to ask for what I feel like I'm worth. Who pays it is going to be up to my level of negotiation and ultimately what the other parties are willing to do. But I think that's a huge opportunity, because I think there's a big concern in this industry that the buy side compensation is going to get just diminished. And well, that's going to be based on our skill level. Is it or isn't it?
I'll challenge that thought for a second, because I do believe that in the same light that open houses, or that you believe open houses will become more popular, I do think that contacting the listing agent direct will become more popular, and not for representation on the buy side, but to go at it as a self-represented buyer, right? Like an unrepresented buyer, somebody that's going to represent themselves in that transaction. And so when you look at the spectrum as a whole, you might see, or the government might be happy to report that that number has gone down, but that doesn't mean the individuals that are charging it has gone down. That might just mean that fewer buyers are accepting representation the way that they did before. Which
is a dangerous thing in and of itself, isn't it?
Absolutely. No question. And in our state, one of the new forms that we rolled out is the unrepresented buyer addendum. So that if a buyer is going to be unrepresented, then they have to sign off on a document that talks about everything that they're giving up, from the due diligence, the timelines, to everything that they're giving up, so that they can, quote unquote, save some money.
Good luck with that. On the sell side of things, have you yet seen a listing seller who does not want to offer compensation?
Yeah.
And what was that conversation like?
That conversation is, okay, that's totally fine. But do I have your permission to still encourage buyer's agents to submit an offer, to disregard the fact that we're saying zero in a sense? And I can still tell them to put the offer in. It's okay if it includes a compensation ask. We'll look at all offers. Is it okay that I still can encourage buyer's agents to submit all offers, because we want to encourage the biggest pool possible of buyers to be interested? And they have said yes to that. So even though they're not offering a buyer agent commission out of the gate, they're still open to have it brought up in the offer stage. And I think that that's going to become a very popular method.
Yeah. And I think with or without the seller's permissions, you're going to get offers in those types of scenarios that have compensation in the offers. And, the sellers are just going to have to determine what it is that they need out of the deal in order to be whole, and whether or not they're willing to stay on the market that much longer to try to get whatever it is that they're trying to get.
Yes. The reason why I brought up seller's permission is because I need their permission to tell a buyer's agent,
Yes.
it's okay. Like, I want to be able to have the conversation with buyer's agents when they call up and say, hey, is your client offering any compensation? Well, technically they're not, but they did ask me to encourage you to submit whatever offer you need in order to put this deal together.
That's right.
And if I don't have that permission in writing, then I don't know that I've got my seller's fiduciary. I want to make sure that I document those types of conversations so that I don't get in trouble for doing that. Because
exactly.
And one of the worst scenarios, obviously, that when you think about this new world is, a thing that I learned and then I had to relearn was I can put a number if my seller would like to offer a number to the other side. Okay, great. What number would you like that to be? Let's offer this. Okay, great. We'll offer that. Now, is it up to me? Do I have to tell the buyer's agent what that number is?
No.
Okay, so let's say that I don't. So a buyer agent calls up and says, hey, I've got a buyer broker agreement. My buyer's saying that I can't show any properties that is offering less than whatever I charge. And, how much are you guys offering? I know that I have that number on the form, but I don't want my seller to have to pay that if they don't have to as a part of the deal, right? And so if I say something like, my seller is open to compensation, please submit whatever offer that you have, and they get stubborn and they say, no, my buyer said that we're not even going to look at a house if they don't, blah, 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 which is I feel like, okay, you really haven't done a good job of educating your buyer, because I don't know any educated buyers that would say that.
All right.
First of all. But what I don't want to happen is that they go to buy the neighbor's house. And then when they move into the neighbor's house and they now become friends with that seller, and they say, yeah, we tried to buy your house, but your agent said that, they wouldn't commit to paying our compensation. And so we moved on. I don't want that scenario to happen. And so right now we are probably in our 4th version of what do we put in the additional language clause that keeps us able to tell our sellers, we're not offering any compensation, but we are telling them, we are saying what we need to say to encourage all offers, even if those offers include compensation as a part of them.
Yeah, I mean, as the listing agent, you have a fiduciary responsibility to your seller. And if it serves their fiduciary best interest to not share that number, which it does, then, a simple dialogue of my seller is willing to accept any, or willing to consider any bona fide offers, I think gets you past that question. And to your point, I know that there will be a lot of agents who do press for that answer. And so you've got to be ready with your own retort on that as a listing agent. So final thoughts from you about the nature of this new world, things you think the agents should be paying attention to right now as they are changing their practices?
Well, just today, I went into our transaction coordinator's office and I said, how many active buyers do we have? We didn't talk about them. We didn't talk about buyer agent contracts that way before.
Yeah.
Right. And so now it's a clearer pipeline for us on not just how many active listings we have, but how many buyer agreements do we have that are still valid, that are out there. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I like that. That.
You're going to be able to fall through on those and understand what your pipeline really means to you in terms of ultimate end results from it as well.
Yes.
We'll start to see some of that come to fruition as well.
All good data becomes usable in a coaching moment with our agents. And can we start to see there's a new line when it comes with buyers? Instead of just how many appointments do you have? How many offers are you writing? How many offers are you getting accepted? Now we get to have a presentation ahead of that for how many presentations are you making? How many presentations have you gotten signed before we get into that showing and offering stage? And so, here we go. We're still fresh in all of this. And I know we're not done yet, because wasn't this settlement just for the sellers?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up. I didn't mean.
Well, and this is going to be a whole new realm of learning. And to your point, I mean, there's going to be agents who have better results in getting their buyer representation agreement signed. Why? What are they saying? There's going to be agents who have no problem getting the full amount, some cobbled together from the seller, some cobbled together from the buyer. What are they saying? Even things like expired buyers. Did anybody even think about that and what that's going to look like for a lead generation source in the future? I think there's all manner of things that we're going to be doing a little bit differently as an industry, but that doesn't mean that fundamentally people are going to stop buying real estate. They are going to continue buying real estate. What we have to keep in mind is this has always been negotiable. It's always been negotiable. It's just most people didn't negotiate, and now they're going to. And now we've got to be ready. Our skill set, our answers, our scripting and dialogues to these kinds of questions that we know are coming, and be able to present our value in a more profound way than we've done in the past on the buy side of the business in order to get them to agree to sign our buyer representation form up front. I think these are all the things that we need to be thinking about. Not is the commission going away? Is it, are buyers agents as we know it going away? No, I don't think they are. I'm not seeing any of that yet. I think it's people like yourself who get skilled up that survive and thrive in this kind of market.
Amen. I agree. And honestly, I appreciate how EXP has gotten out into the forefront on all of this. And I have been at EXP since 2019. And I think that EXP had a brand of being a recruiting company for a long time. And this change, I really see EXP as leveling up their brand in the industry. That the fact that they've not copywritten the forms, like that's direct compensation from seller addendum. Like I put a reel on my Instagram this week educating my whole entire state. Like actually, I mean, it's on Instagram, but like I was talking to there's thousands of agents in Arizona right now that can't use some of AAR's forms because they have broker to broker sharing commissions. That's great, except when I bust out the direct compensation from seller addendum to a non-EXP agent, they're like, ugh, I don't want that form that was written by some other broker. Get that right. And so what I'm trying to be is on the forefront of that of, hey, look, everybody, if we can't use the AAR form, that's fine. We have this form. And in fact, you can use this form now too, because it's not copywritten, so that we can get more people on the same page with how this new world works.
Yeah, and we're seeing actually competitors and also third parties, tech companies, let's just say, using our form, literally copying verbatim our form with associations and other people. And God bless. If what we're doing is leading the charge in the industry and showing the way that's going to protect our agents and help them be more productive, great. That is all the better for it. Yeah. Yeah, Leo and Holly were very purposeful in what they did and how they did it. And it was a very smart play. It shocked a lot of people because they weren't thinking of it the right way. But once people realized why we were doing it and that it was really nothing more than what was necessary to make sure that we were safe, I think a lot of people suddenly had some light bulbs go on. All right. Well, Phil, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being on the show and sharing with everybody.
Of course. Don't worry, everybody. It's going to be okay.
It's going to be better than okay if you can scale up and get out there, because you will take your unfair share of both buyers and listings. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate you.
Oh, man, great information. I mean, look, preparation, understanding, articulation, keys to success. Thank you guys for that real world information. All right, everybody. We ran a little bit over, so real quickly, just make sure that you scan our QR code for our NPS score. Let us know how we're doing, that we're bringing you the value that you expect to see every single week. We want to make sure we're providing value to you. And finally, and lastly, let's have our icon recognition. So stay tuned today for the next program coming up. And thank you so much for joining us again on the Big Agent Meeting. See you next week, everyone. Have a great weekend.